Hey everyone, thanks for joining me today. So, today we're going to talk about past mistakes. So, I was thinking about this. I think in general, a lot of us have conversations about, our past and the things that we've done and, um, things that when we think about them, they just kind of make us feel a little yucky because they just bring up memories of the mistakes and things that we wish we wouldn't have done, whether it's something that we regret or just a yucky feeling of like, I can't believe I did that. And I've actually had this conversation a couple times this week, and it just made me think, it's a good one to throw out there because I think we all can relate to making mistakes, whether it's something we've done recently or, kind of in this present time of life, and that we're just kind of still dealing with the yucky effects of the mistake that we recently made, or if it's reflecting on past mistakes and either seeing the effects of that mistake maybe still play out from time to time now in life, or just having it be that thing that when you think about it, it just makes you feel really embarrassed or just uncomfortable in some way. And so, kind of want to talk about it kind of in a more general, from a general perspective, because every one of us will kind of, our minds will naturally go to a specific place when we talk about regrets or mistakes and things in the past. But I don't want to talk about it in the sense of like getting stuck in the past and being stuck thinking about the regret. I want to look at it more from the perspective of growth and progress. And what I mean by that is I can say that in my life, the biggest mistakes or, things I've done wrong have always led to lessons learned. And I know that that sounds really cheesy, but just kind of go with me on it. There is, when we look at our behaviors and we think back to things that we've done, whether they're good or bad, our outlook, our perspective has a lot to do with how we remember it, right? So you could be doing something very positive or neutral to other people. Someone could look at that and say, hey, that was a really, really good job. But if you're feeling less confident about it, then you're going to remember it as a negative thing. You're going to look at it as something that you didn't do as well as you maybe wish you would have, or maybe you'd practiced it and it had gone differently than you had hoped. But to everyone else, it's still something that's really positive. So your subjective perspective is going to influence how you see something, how you remember something, or just your view of a situation or a behavior. And that is really important to take into consideration when you think about anything, because your view is not going to be the same as someone else's. And especially when we're talking about our own behavior, the way we see ourselves is frequently a very different thing than how other people see us and how they see our behaviors. So you have to keep that in mind whenever you're thinking about things. And that in and of itself is probably a good topic for me to do another time. But just that the idea that we see ourselves differently than other people see us. But back to our topic, that affects how you remember your past and how you remember your behaviors and mistakes or regrets or anything like that. And so something that you might consider a mistake or a regret may be something that someone else involved, whoever else is involved, maybe doesn't see it as a negative. But when I'm thinking of the examples I want to focus on are things that we can all agree, like that was a mistake, that was a regret that you had, whether it's a behavior that you did and it was, you hurt someone else's feelings by what you said or did, or maybe you raised your voice and were disrespectful to someone, yelled at them. It could be a regret about, like you forgot to do something that was really important, and so you kind of let someone down or just fell behind on a responsibility. It could be a bigger regret, like a relationship, that you shouldn't have been in a certain relationship, or you should have left a certain relationship at a certain point. It can be all kinds of things. And so I'm kind of coming at this from the bigger picture, mistake / regret. And, some people will say, like, don't ever regret anything. It all happened for a reason. And, I could see that. I think that there are a lot of situations where that's very true, and things happen for a reason, whatever your belief system is about why those things happen, whether it's faith-based or just the universe, fate, or just, luck, whatever. Then your perspective is going to determine how you make sense of those situations. But there are some people that don't see that, that things happen for a reason. And so everyone is different, and there's no right or wrong way to do it. But But I think when we're looking back at uh, things that we would label mistakes or regrets, you first have to decide, do you like the feeling of having regret, or do you want to turn it into a lesson? Do you want to look at it as something that just feels like a burden that you're carrying around, this regret of, I wish I wouldn't have done this, or because I did this, I just, it really impacted me and I just feel awful about it? Or do you want to try, if you don't already, but do you want to try to see it as, you know what? I don't know why that happened. I can't make sense of why that had to happen. Yes, sure, it would have been easier if that hadn't happened, but it happened. And I just have to accept that it happened. There's nothing I can do to change it. There's nothing I can do to make that not be the case. It happened. And as a result of that, I just need to figure out how to make peace with it and how to incorporate it into my life and try to take what I can out of it, and then just learn from the rest. And that is the piece that I really, really want to emphasize is lesson. And I am a big proponent of the perspective that the past mistakes or kind of regrets, that they have lessons in them. And maybe that's just my way of making peace with it, because again, I can't change it. And as someone who enjoys control, I can't control what's happened and what's done. So a good way for me to deal with it is to look at what came out of it for me. And there are certain things that there was nothing in it but embarrassment, shame, and pain. But for the most part, and kind of go into that. If that's the case, then really it's just about distracting myself from hyperfixating on it and really thinking about it a lot and allowing it to live in my head. And but when it's the stuff that I do kind of walk myself through and just get to a conclusion of like, you know what, this is what I learned from it, and I'm just gonna have to let that be good enough. That if that hadn't happened, I maybe never would have learned this about myself, or I never would have grown in this way. And I feel like many of the things that have happened that things that I can say were my doing. Again, we can't apply this to other people's behaviors. I can't control anyone else's behavior then or now. And so I'm just referring to things I've done. If I did something to hurt someone, or I made a mistake, or I forgot to do something, or I embarrassed myself somehow, I'm going to choose to look at it as a lesson, something that taught me how to be better and do things differently in the future. And that is what I want to encourage you to think about. And this isn't going to apply to everything, but generally speaking, our mistakes can be learned from, and we will learn from them. But it all really depends on if we choose to try to learn from them. So if you get stuck, if you make a mistake and you get stuck in the shame or embarrassment portion of it, then that you're just going to choose to focus on the negative. But if you try to see how you can just take this as a learning opportunity, then it gets a little easier. And all of us, I think, need a little bit of time to just sit in the ugly of it and feel the embarrassment or feel the kind of the regret. But then we have to pick ourselves up and we have to say, okay, well, it's done. There's nothing I can do about it. So, think of it in terms of forgetfulness, right? So if you miss an appointment and you happen to have an appointment with someone who charges a no-show fee, well, that's a really yucky feeling to get charged all because you forgot something. You forgot to be there, you didn't organize, you didn't put it in your calendar, whatever. That mistake feels really, really bad. Financially, it could hit you hard, but it's more of the like, oh, I just feel so bad or so dumb that I forgot that. We can go down that rabbit hole where we beat ourselves up. But when those kinds of things happen, I imagine if you've missed an appointment like that and you got charged for it, you're probably never going to do that again because that really bothered you. You had to pay a fee that you didn't like. And now that's going to prompt you to be more organized and more responsible. So the next time you will maybe put it in your calendar a different way, maybe put reminders in your calendar, whatever. But right there, what that did is it was an unfortunate situation that you can blame yourself for just bad luck or whatever, but it doesn't matter why. All that matters now is it's done. You have to move on, but how are you going to move on from it? Are you going to move on and just hate that doctor's office because they charged you, or are you going to just be mad at yourself forever and refuse to make another appointment or just sulk in it? Or are you going to say, you know what, happens, but what am I going to do to prevent that from ever happening again? let me see what I need to do differently in the way I structure my time or my schedule. So that's a simple example. Same with if you forget to, like, I have reminders on my phone for everything. It's not a joke, everything. I mean, so my phone is beeping at me all day long with reminders because I have a lot going on. I work full time, run a business. I'm a mom, I'm a wife, and I just have my own memory issues apparently. And so I can fight that and be mad about it, or I can just find a way to help myself. And I choose to find a way to help myself. So I'm constantly making reminders for myself. And even with all my reminders, stuff gets forgotten. That's just life. Some things that you don't expect to forget, you forget. There are times that I would fill my son's water bottle for school and then forget to put it in his bag. Well, now I have to drive back up there afterwards and go drop it off. And that's so frustrating and it's annoying. But it led me to put a reminder in my phone because I did that a few times and I hated having to waste my time or just felt annoyed with myself for having to go back and take the drink up there. So now I have a reminder that says, Tristan's water or whatever. And so that to me is a way that I chose to learn from it. Now, there are people that I know and talk to who are clients, sometimes even actually friends who do this, who get really caught up in the fact that they are forgetful or make these little mistakes and they cannot get past the mistake and see the lesson. They're very hard on themselves. They see the fact that they made this mistake or had this forgetfulness as a problem that they feel like they shouldn't be having. They shouldn't be forgetful. They shouldn't make mistakes. And so they get stuck in that. They get stuck in feeling really, really bad about themselves instead of moving forward into the well, this is just how you operate now. The reason doesn't even matter. It's just how you are. So what are you going to do about it? Are you going to keep beating yourself up for it? Or are you going to figure out a system and a strategy that makes it better? And I'd like to say that most people figure out the strategy. And I think that probably most do. But so many people get stuck in the feeling of just why? Why can't I remember these things? How do I forget these things? It's such a small thing. Why can't I get my stuff together? It doesn't matter. We're all like this. Most of the people I know, can't get on top of everything all the time. We're not perfect. We have a lot going on. And whether you're, young or old, it doesn't matter. There are things that are going to cause, you might have an issue that goes with attention, ADD, ADHD, anxiety, depression. There could be things there that cause forgetfulness, or you could just be a forgetful person, or you could just be a really busy person. So again, the lesson is the most important. When you make a mistake, hopefully it's a one-time thing, but certain certain mistakes that we make are big enough that immediately we need to put, after the first time we make it, we need to put in a system and a plan to never have that happen again. And then other mistakes that we may make them a few times before we decide, okay, this makes me feel really bad when this happens, so I'm going to try to find a system, a strategy, whether it's a Post-it note or a reminder or anything, I don't care, whatever works for you, an alarm. And so I really, really want you to think about, are you the kind of person that gets stuck in the misery of the mistake and the guilt over making mistakes, or are you the kind of person that turns mistakes into lessons? And that's a really, really good question for you to ask yourself, because it says a lot about your just your kind of the way that you look at the world. Do you wallow and get stuck, or do you move forward and try to get better? That's something to work on. There are some people that go through phases where they're very motivated to learn, and there are other phases in their lives where they're stuck and they just can't seem to get over something. So it could be seasonal for you depending on what's going on, or it just could be a personality thing. But now think of a different example, a more kind of in-depth example, relationships. So many of the people that I work with who are coming out of a relationship, or maybe are in a bad relationship, get stuck in this kind of feeling of regret of, I knew better. I shouldn't have been in this kind of relationship. I knew I should have gotten out sooner. I knew I never should have been with this person. Or I used to be so confident, and now that I'm in this relationship, I've lost that confidence. I'm, very scared of everything. And so people who get stuck in those mindsets don't see a way to improve that. Like, let's say you're out of that negative relationship. Well, you might feel scared that you're going to be in the same kind of relationship moving forward. So then you just don't want to date. You don't want to try to be with anyone else. That fear of past hurts or regrets or mistakes could keep you stuck to the point where you don't find a way to make better choices or to, make decisions that will put you in better relationships, set higher standards for yourself. But that is the lesson. Your relationship, the negative things that happened, those are all lessons. You just learned that you don't like those kinds of, aspects of a relationship. You don't want to be with someone who does this or who treats you like this. You don't like when you are this kind of person in a relationship. You want to be this kind of person in a relationship. So when you take the time to really learn from the bad experience or the mistake, that can be such an empowering thing for the future because it teaches you to look for something different, to behave in a different way, to search for someone who is more compatible instead of just being stuck in the regret, stuck in the fear, stuck in the just frustration or anger towards yourself. And one decision moves you forward and the other keeps you stuck. And that is a decision that you have to make. Do you want to be the kind of person that stays stuck in regret and stuck in the past? Or do you want to be the kind of person that actively works on learning from experiences, learning from mistakes, and then moving forward to do it better the next time? And just because you try doesn't mean you're going to get it right straight away. It might take you a while to really just fine tune it and find a system that works to help you do better. But the effort is the most important part. You're trying and finding resources, finding help, whether it's a loved one or a friend that is supportive of you, that can hold you accountable or just help you explore this. Or if it's a professional, a doctor, a therapist, a psychologist, whatever, someone who can really help you moving forward. There are people who struggle with this, with health and wellness and eating and weight, where they get to a point where they're taking care of themselves, but then they stop doing that. Maybe their habits aren't so good anymore, and so they fall back into bad habits, maybe gain weight or are unhealthy and struggling with things like that. And then they get stuck in being really upset with themselves for falling backwards. And that's fine at first. Like, it's okay if you feel yucky about it, but then what are you going to do differently? What went wrong that last time that you tried it? How did you fall back into a bad habit? And then how do we prevent that from happening next time? Do you need a different kind of support? Do you need a nutritionist or a dietitian or a doctor? Do you need a better regimen to help you stay healthy and eat well and exercise? So again, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to fall backwards on things. What are you going to do differently? And sometimes you put in what am I going to do differently? And it goes really, really well. And then you hit a wall and then you start to fall. Okay, keep growing, keep building on it. Let's stop what's not working and find something else to replace it that's going to work better. Because there's never just one way. There's never just one solution or one system for a mistake or for a problem that needs to be improved. There's many, many different approaches. That's why there's a bunch of different providers and professionals in this world, because everyone offers you something different. You might find the answer in that first solution that you seek, or you might be seeking a solution for a while before you really find one that works. But as long as you're seeking a solution and working and trying and growing, then you're on the right path. When you stop and you quit and you give up, there's no movement. There's no movement, there's no progress, and then you will be stuck. You should never be stuck. You should never allow yourself to be stuck. Things will come up in life that'll knock you down forever. There's no way around that. Difficulties will come up, stressors will come up, just all kinds of things happen. There's no way around that. How you react to it says a lot about who you are as a person or who you want to be as a person. That is what I want you to work on. All of us. I'm constantly working on that. I am by no means fantastic at it, but I try. I try really, really hard because I refuse to be the kind of person that is stuck in misery. And we all have the capacity and the potential to be stuck in misery. It's just something that we all, can do. We cannot allow ourselves to do that. So I really, really want you to think about it. I hope this motivates you, challenges you to just try to find, lessons in your mistakes and build on those, find solutions, get the support to do better in the future so that you don't get stuck in the regret. Okay, I'm going to let you go. I hope that gives you something to think about, and I'll talk to you next time. All right, have a great week. Bye.